Welcome to Parry Talks.
We're back. We're
My
back.
name's Parry.
No, you don't. No. Neither of you could even come close to passing as Parry for
It's
two
true.
reasons. These pretty looks and these pretty outfits.
That's true.
It's impossible to come close.
And your silky hair.
You guys have silky hair.
Not
I'll give you the
silky
hair.
as yours,
Thank
Pat.
you. I can dish.
We're back. We're back.
Yeah.
This isn't Zoom, thank God. I'm
Yay.
sure everyone listening is like, thank God they're not on Zoom either, because that was a hell, probably to engage and consume, but also as well to record and just like build personal connections over the internet, which I'm sure a lot of people reflect on is hell.
Mm-hmm.
So we're back, we're home. You might see the space change a little bit.
There's
you
a
know.
weird bird on the wall.
There's a weird bird on the wall. There's nothing on this wall. There might be something soon.
Maybe Black
Who
Whoa.
Canvas.
knows? Maybe a little
What?
logo.
A little
maybe
Parry Talks logo. What?
Maybe some signatures from past guests.
Whoa.
All right,
Does
Parry,
that-
we will give you our signature if you really want it.
Can I have it on my chest?
Yeah, tattooed.
No. Yeah, so we're back. It's great. I feel like, I don't know. I don't want to say we're through the other side of COVID.
No, we're not.
Even though there's a lot of attitudes that are like sort of suggesting that, but at the same time, it's like we are so far from that. But I thought for the first episode back in the physical realm, I thought I'd bring down some good friends, some distinguished alumni, you could say, some fan favorites as well, you could
What?
argue.
Oh, what?
I
Just
just
Parry's
feel
name.
And I just feel like
You're only
all
fan.
my 5 listeners are like, oh, neat point.
Yeah.
Um,
Me, my mum, my dad.
Me,
Literally.
my sister, Parry.
Yeah.
People over-expect how many people actually care about listening to these episodes. I'm joking.
You also underestimated yourself.
I know. So I'm back, and I just thought it'd be a good time to, as a sort of a time marker, time placer, to just have a bit of a, not just a traditional interview, but a general discussion about,
Mhm.
you know, life and just some
Check
young
in.
people's perspectives on what the hell has been going on.
Yeah, man.
So,
Mm.
yeah, we've got the ones, the only, hey, honey point,
Hey.
Hey.
back again. What episode number were you guys, do you know?
Oh, I'm going to say,
It was like 15 to 20, wasn't it? I don't know.
okay. I was going to say
No,
like
I was going to say like
13.
5.
Whoa. That, we're nowhere. We have no
13
idea.
sounds sort of right, though.
But I listened to a few of your episodes before our potty. I reckon it was like 10.
10 sounds about.
Okay, so there was Main Paris, there was Alaris K, there was Lex Deluxe, Kane Metcalf,
Yeah, but you don't have them in
Isol,
order. I
Nina
don't know them in order.
Geraci.
Yeah.
Name Jurassic. But these are all ones before, because I remember
Yeah.
like listening.
Marty, all the Triple One boys, Marty and Connor were before you guys as well.
And then there was someone else before us. And someone else before us.
Anyway.
And someone else. And then it was us, so it was 10.
Wow.
So the favourites.
Yeah.
So the favourites. Yeah, I just want to start saying, obviously, having, you know, both personal accounts where you're quite outspoken, and also Honey Point as well. This is one thing I've had a big issue with. Not issue with, just like trying to get my head around it, is how do you remain active in the music world, or even in your just personal life, putting stories up and just using a social media account like you normally would, as well as balancing, you know, important information, important, you know, just visibility or awareness of certain voices. How do you balance that in terms of like making it not a distraction, but at the same time like amplifying your voice so that more people can hear it, and just like that sort of,
Yeah.
you know, that Venn diagram of like,
I feel like when all the BLM stuff started really kicking off hard, I was like, I remember I had done a guest mix and I was like, I'm just not gonna post it, even though it's important, it's like promo and stuff. I'm just not gonna post for like 2 weeks unless it's like related
Clog the
to
feed.
yeah, and, unless it's like related to what everyone's, you know, trying to learn about. And I think for me, I have like personally, I felt like I was almost like obligated to talk about what was happening, because I have like such a huge intersection of like followers where it's like I've got people who I don't speak to but from kindergarten and high school, and a lot of friends from the North Shore, a lot of white followers, and like just music goers, and then people like, and like I think that's kind of what my platform's just always like been built on, trying to open discussions, and it's just something that I've just done for ages, and that's just been like common practice for me. So I was like, I felt like I really had to do that, and it was like exhausting, but I was like, this is work that I need to do, and considering I have like so many white followers that aren't in the echo chamber that I think I'm in, I was like, I do need to share this. And people were like asking questions a lot, so I was like, okay, so I'm like doing the right thing by like talking about it. And yeah, so it was hard. It was good and hard, and I learned a lot through, I think like making an obligation to share stuff and like personally reflecting on it is really good as an aid to teach yourself as well. And I'm such a lazy reader. Like I can only like read when I'm really in the mood. So like learning about stuff was like my way of not filtering through, but like taking stuff that was like from like Black activists and then like taking it and making it like easier to read for people who might be like less educated than me. So that was like the way I did it. But that was like me personally though.
Yeah, I think it's been such an interesting time to live through, like in so many ways. And then also not just this time on a micro scale, but also just like our lifetimes on a macro scale in terms of like how social media has impacted how we like connect with each other and how we engage with like these platforms of activism. And I think like what a wild time being locked indoors and really only having, because of COVID, and then really only having a platform such as, you know, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram to share one's thoughts. And I found it quite debilitating in a way, and I found it really and still now like the conversation's never ending just about how do we engage with social media, how do we use it in the best way possible. In the dance scene, like and you know, being like DJs in the dance scene or being a collective in the dance scene, that's mission is almost kind of tied in with racial politics and racial politics in the scene. Like how can we actually act in a way that's meaningful, that's not just sharing on a story, but then again, is sharing on on a story the meaningful way to share right now? Like, because if you don't say anything at all on your story, then it's better to say something than say nothing at all. And
I think it depends on like your audience as well. Like if your audience is mainly white, then you need to be sharing, because otherwise those important currents of information don't go through. And I think like that
totally, but like you were saying,
think about.
You're a lazy reader, I'm a lazy reader. I reckon most of our generation and younger generations are lazy readers. I think that's the whole millennial Gen Z thing, that the reason why like we don't have articles, or that like articles and journalism is going down and long form articles are going down, is because we only read headlines. Like people don't read that much. In that sense, are we just flooding? Like how can we be more and giving people the ability to just skip and move on and not engage with the things that we're sharing? Like how can we act in a way that's impactful, in a way that is digestible, in a way that people don't have a choice but to engage with the conversation? And I actually found that the BLM protest, the massive one that happened around the world a couple of weeks ago, I found that was one of the more successful examples of protest in terms of people not involved with the movement actually engaging with it, because it was such a contentious time. Like I that week after the protest had like an old friend from school's birthday event, and I went like with like there were 10 of us to a restaurant, and none of them were political in any way, and none of them really engage in any kind of news or like political conversation outside of like what their parents share with them kind of thing. And they were like, you know, it was just irresponsible, it's COVID, like why would you do that, la 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 la. And I mean, that was a whole nother conversation in itself, but the fact that they even engaged with it from that point, that opened the conversation of why it was important to be there, and why like BLM is important, and that opened up the space to educate, if that makes sense. Like it forced people.
I think a couple things. I feel like the whole generation of non-readers and stuff, we form our identities on our Instagram stories, and that's like, for me as well, like All Mate Paz is just like 90% of it as a brand, and like I do think about not like in a cocksucky way, but All Mate Paz is a brand, because if All Mate Paz does well, then Parry Talks does well, then Purple Sneakers does well, and that sort of thing. So I like don't overthink about it, but I think about it like what gets put on a story, like non-political wise, and just like Old Mate Paz, and understanding that we are all mini brands, especially when we have any sort of platform.
That's such a good way to put it.
Yeah,
mini
that is
brands. Yeah, wow.
such a good way.
Yeah,
to put
and
it.
like the Old Mate Paz story is probably my biggest public identity on the internet. Yeah, I post, but the story is like just always there. It's ever constant. So I think that like we can't trust our audiences too much, for one, because like because when we go out with our friends, with our close friends in our little BYO warehouse party, it's like there's a certain level of trust in that community. It's like all of our values are so similar, but like that doesn't mean that our followers all think the same and that sort of thing. So I think that using the stories has been like really successful, I think, in just like reaching everybody, because I'm not reading an article, but I'm going to be scrolling through stories for 2 hours before I go to bed. And that's my sort of...
The sharing of the video, sorry to cut you off really quickly, but the sharing of the videos and photos, I think are like, we are such an eyeball generation, and that's been so intense. You have such a good point, and what you were saying before, like completely spot on, like great points. But I think just like the sharing of the videos and the photos was so impactful.
But that in itself is so problematic, because it's like dehumanizing, and it's like building this
perverse kind of culture around it. Totally,
of, like trauma of like watching that like shouldn't be something that makes us care. And so I think that's also like incredibly like problematic, and it's so hard to like navigate around like what is something in a post that will make people engage. And I think like something that I found like has been working for me is like breaking everything down into little chunks. So I might have like a post for like extended reading, and I'll have like, okay, this post basically too long didn't read is these 3 words, and then if you engage with that, then it's like, okay, cool, I agree with this, cool, I'll read the post to further my understanding.
I feel like a big conflict that I've had is like I've been donating and stuff, but it hasn't been public, and like even like last night you put up like, does anyone have an email template? And I'm like, yes.
Straight away.
Yeah,
within like 3 minutes of messages.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, is it? I don't know. It's just like that weird sort of thing. It's like, does it have to? If it's not on your story, does it count that you're helping? And
I think,
but we don't help to put it out there and get clicks because we donated. Like if you donated, that's what matters. You're not meant to put it on a story and be like, hey guys, guess what? Like, look what I did, because that's perverse in itself as well. That's not for the cause; it's for yourself. Yeah, and that's weird.
I think like donations very much like people. I find it very hard to watch stories that are like, hey, I donated $50, match me, which I'm like, it's like, what if you
match
can't?
my level of wealth? Come on.
It's like, what if you're not in a position to? Then you're doing your activism in whatever way you can for yourself. Like you might not come from wealth, you might not come from like, but maybe you're able to like make food for people or something. So I think there is like some kind of sharing of information you can do, and I think that's like a part of the bare minimum of activism that needs to be done, because otherwise how do you spread a cause like something that is happening in the same way that it's like the same concept of news, like you are the personal like news feed for other people as well.
I think the power that lies within us is to like I was saying before, is to generate the conversations. And I think something that I tried to do, I posted on my stories and I did on Instagram, but I just felt the same way about like, but for me, I feel this feels wrong. I'm posting, but then I'm also on Spotify and I'm sharing songs that I like, and I'm also like, I don't know, every now and then I'll post something else that doesn't have something to do with the movement or whatever. Like you were saying before, like you wouldn't post your mix, or you didn't self-advertise for your music stuff when the protests were going on in like the first few weeks, and I was definitely conscious of just not posting things that didn't need to be posted in this time and making space. I guess doing that is making digital space for these conversations and for these movements, and we always talk about that physically, about making space for people that are less represented in our communities. But what was I going to say? My thought was, taking those conversations that we're putting out on our stories and just like making them a part of our daily lives, having them at the dinner table, confronting the hard conversations in ourselves, confronting every nuance and every maybe stereotype or problematic idea in every little act that we do, and like just being like more aware of our actions, more aware of how we shape and structure our lives and our interactions in our everyday lives with those around us and the world around us. I think that's like an effective way to take your online politics into your everyday life, and you don't need to. Those are little things that you can't put on your story. You can't be like, hey everyone, tonight I started this really hard conversation with my family at the dinner table.
But I think that itself is valuable as well.
No, doing that is valuable, but like putting it on your story and saying that you did it.
Yeah. I think like saying that and sharing that story and being like, my parents reacted in this way, could like help motivate another person. People. Yeah, and I know like that has been such a thing as well. Like I have like problematic friends that I'm scared to talk to about these things, but like having someone else talk about their experience and be like, okay, yeah, I did this thing, it was hard, but I did it, will like motivate me to do it and like get uncomfy as well.
But then where do we draw the line between like what's performative and what's sharing for the
but I think
I was like, my inner host was like, I'm about to spin this here, and then you just stole my thunder.
Performative, like I never saw a problem in performative activism until quite recently, just because I was like, performative activism is okay because this is such a hot take.
Cancel her.
Because there is still information that is being spread. And even if like a person that doesn't really align with it, if they share it and just one person donates, that performative activism has worked in a way, you know? And I think that is okay. And I think performative activism comes down to like your personal intention, and no one will know whether your activism is performative or whether it's like intentional. And I think in that way, like you need to check yourself with like constantly and think about like, hey, am I doing this because other people are doing it, or am I doing it because this is what I believe in and I know things need to be done. So I think performative activism is something that it's one's personal relationship with all that is going on around them.
Yeah, I get that's such a good point, because at the end of the day, it's about like we've been saying, it's about the conversation, it's about the message, it's about the action. So it doesn't actually really matter what your intentions are. I think also like the mere fact that I even asked that question between like what's performative and what's genuine, like I think there also needs to be something to be said about the individual that then criticizes someone else's activism.
Absolutely,
like and they're like there's an inherent issue in that, in the person being like, well, what's the reason behind this person posting this? Like, they're just trying to blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter what they're trying to do, they're doing it anyways. And something's being said, something's being done, action's being taken. You know, maybe and like we've been saying over and over, we should just be looking at ourselves with the exact same question, under the exact same microscope.
Big time.
What are your and if it is performative, okay, it's performative, but like just I guess the crux is understand what you're doing, understand what you're posting, also question everything that you're reading and posting. Like I think there's also I think one issue that I really stand by and am against is just the blind posting of just seeing something and being like, this is crazy. Share. It's like, wait, read it, fact check it. What's going on behind this? What's your source? Where is this coming from? Who else has shared this? Because there were a few things that I shared, and I think actually, and we've had this conversation, the black tile thing on Instagram, like the whole, and I was victim to this, just seeing the black tile and being like, oh my god, I've got to share that black tile. Like everyone's sharing this black tile. Like I'm gonna contribute to the movement by sharing this black tile. But that I didn't for 1 second question, what's the power of this? What's the power of this hashtag? Who started this? Who is this supporting? Who is this not supporting? Who is this benefiting? So on and so forth.
So much of that. Yeah, and I think talking about the criticisms and like bringing it back to the dance world, we posted on Purple Sneakers, I think, like when it's first like very early on, just being like jazz, rock, blues, dance, blah 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 is black art, and then we put like the big thing out being like, oh, like we cover black musicians, so we think Black Lives Matter. And then like someone came up and was like, well, would you think Black Lives Matter if you didn't cover black art? And there was like that whole sort of thing of like,
that's a huge discussion I had with one of my friends.
And like we were just like, I was just like, oh, you're right.
Yeah, there was this, the way all of this was dealt with, or at least I think for the Sydney music scene, was the way people were engaging with it was like, hey, dance music comes from black culture, thus black lives are important because of that. And it was such an
Superficial.
Like, it's such a capitalist. It was like, why is a black life like is equal to what they produce? Like, it's like that's not how it is. And like one of my like black friends was like explaining this, and she's in like the dancing, like she goes to all the parties and everything, so she was like, why is it that all the crews are handling it in this way? And I was like, you are so right. Like, yet again, capitalism has come so
completely completely
hard. Yeah.
I think a massive conversation I have with a lot of my friends as well is that like inherently these struggles are class struggles. Like, that's like the conversation needs to be about our economic and societal systems in which we like are all a part of, like the systematic racism that exists. It's a class struggle. Like, look at what's happening in Melbourne right now, with the shutting down of the Flemington housing estates. Like this is the I'm not taking away from the Black Lives Matter question or conversation or movement at all, but like how we're engaging with it needs to be understood from a point of through the guise of capitalism. Like, we need to also question those systems and understand, I mean, if this is what you believe in, like, I mean, this is what I believe, like, very wholeheartedly, but like
anything Danny says does not represent the ideas of... No, I'm joking.
Someone listening to this might be like, no, I completely disagree. And like, I don't know, I disagree with you, sir. But
sir as well, immediately.
Middle-aged.
Anyone. Take my hat off. Anyways, I forgot what I was saying. Class struggle. But yeah, like, I guess that's what it comes down to in terms of the gripes that I've been having personally with how we've been engaging with all these movements. It's that how we're engaging with them is through these capitalist platforms such as Instagram. Like, we've been benefiting, like, Instagram is giving us a platform to speak on. Thank you, Instagram. Like, because of COVID, if we didn't have these social media platforms, like, fuck, what would we do? I'm sure we'd adapt in a way and find something to do, but like, it's really given us this opportunity. But in that, we're engaging with the system that is oppressing us or oppressing those who are oppressed. Do you know what I mean? So it's...
But I think the love-hate relationship with the love-hate relationship with social media is like this. Instagram has been so important in the way we've engaged with like the Black Lives Matter movement, in the same way like Twitter was so huge during the Arab riots like in Egypt like a few years ago. So I think like it's so important to like still pay attention to the fact that these platforms exist for like instantaneous information from like literally people who are experiencing it to the outside world. And I think that needs to be reflected on as well. Like it is like people are talking from inside where all the stuff is happening.
And I think the big thing about Instagram and Facebook as like sort of big corporations is like, do we view Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as platforms, or do we view them as businesses? And I think that they are businesses. So like, whenever we do engage, because the attention economy is so valuable for so many people, so it's like, it's that sort of dichotomy where we understand at the same time that they aren't just free platforms that anyone can, you know, voice their opinion on, because stuff gets crowded out, you know, stuff helps in the algorithm more than other things. Do you know what I mean? So there's like a weird conversation to have, like argument to have is like, is Instagram a platform, or is Instagram like a corporate structure there to... I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a really big...
Yeah.
I just started... In my mind, I just started ticking through, like, yes, but then everyone has a say, but then they have all these ethics where it's like the whole thing with Trump and Twitter being like, fact check this tweet, and then him being like, you don't have the right to say these things and to monitor and police what I put out there, but then the algorithm does kind of systematically police certain things that are being posted.
But he violated so many Twitter guidelines, so it was like... that's why they did that.
I mean, that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
I completely back what Twitter did on Trump, like completely. But I'm saying like they are a business. They have provided a platform, but then they are a business as well that has to set guidelines, and like they're like mini like cities and countries in themselves now having to set up like a law system, a legal system, and a policing system.
I was like, it sounds like a street, like businesses and people and laws that you have to obey.
Literally.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Let's reel it back in.
Reel it in.
What are your thoughts on, say, people in our dance world? Obviously, we are limited because the live space is so important for our community and fundraising, and you saw what we did over summer for bushfire fundraising and that sort of thing, and like really banded together, and there was like a much tighter sense of community when we're all at a party for a specific reason, or you know, everyone's had a tough week because of bushfires, and everyone engages in this thing that we like all together. And obviously Topical's been very limited in what we can do in terms of our activism from the dance front. But what are your thoughts on like fundraiser VAs, all that sort of stuff? How do you think that we've engaged well? How do you think that we've lacked engagement, in terms of visibility and all that stuff?
Loved hearing compilations that I truly love from like Sydney artists, and then seeing like, hey, 50% of the portions go towards like this charity, and I'm like, that's so. And I think that's more common than uncommon within the Sydney music scene. So I'm so happy that is how producers here are handling that. But I think, then again, it's like, I feel like we exist in a tiny little bit of an echo chamber.
Big time. That was my next. That was a follow-up.
Well, with the compilations, like one person puts out a comp and they're like 50% will go to whatever, and then the next person's like, well, if I release a comp and don't do that, then am I cancelled? So
that's fine. I think I think that kind
like
of pressure is good. I think that kind of pressure is beneficial. But I think in terms of like, there are, say, crews in the North Shore that would not engage in Honey Point, or myself, or other compilations, or artists that are doing these kind of initiatives, and I think, or the discussions surrounding activism aren't there yet, because, like you said, it's a class thing, right? It's like they just, nothing affects them, so they don't need to engage in it, or they don't feel the need to, so I think...
Just disclaimer, these communities exist all around Australia, not just in the North Shore of
I
Sydney.
mean,
this is not a direct jab at the North Shore of Sydney. We understand that people of all different class.
Oh, sorry, eastern suburbs too.
Everyone,
I think that is,
everywhere,
of course, we live, like, our Sydney dance scene, like the community we talk about, is in the biggest echo chamber ever. Because it, like, we assume our world is...
the underground.
Exactly.
Like, it is like, how do you get there?
But at the same time, I think if you're doing anything that involves money, it's, like, it's brilliant. Like, money, shit only gets fucked up when money gets fucked up.
Involved,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if, or like for donations and that sort of thing.
Right?
That's what I mean. So I think
which is so interesting in context of what we were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like criticizing capitalism.
So even though we are preaching to a choir with this wobbly breakbeat 8-minute track VA, if there's money involved and they're raising money, I think it's good. Whereas sometimes I feel like it can be a bit preachy to the choir when there's not money involved in like our little, you know.
Yeah,
scene.
I think one thing that just going back to your initial question.
I didn't get to answer it. I'm joking.
Yeah.
It's not Parry Talks, had a bit of sass.
No, I'm riffing, man. I'm riffing.
No, I'm loving it.
You know,
I'm loving it.
No,
I'm joking. I'm forgetting.
What I wanted to say was, Deeps and I have like really, and I think this isn't so much a community thing, because to be honest, I mean, look, maybe I haven't been as engaged because of COVID and like, you know, what's happened in my own like personal life and just whatever. But I haven't seen that much come up from our community, and I'm not criticizing it, but I'm just saying like it wasn't like when we had the bushfires and it was like there were so many parties, fundraisers, comps, DJs putting out mixes and then raising money for the it hasn't been as loud as that because we haven't had the means to. Like, this isn't a criticism at all, it's just an observation. But I think what it's done is made the community reflect on, okay, wait, one day it's going to come back, maybe sooner than later. How can we, and Deepa and I have definitely done this, how can our actions and our movements and our work provide way more meaning than just events and partying? Deepa and I have had so many conversations about, okay, so what if after COVID, because also not only on a political front, but also just like a practical front, events are never going to be the same after this. Like,
but we were talking about this before COVID as well, but just because we are both, like, I would like to say activists, or at least like politically charged people.
We've always asked, like, how can we take this further? How can we make more change with what we're doing? But what I'm trying to get at is, like, what if events never come back? As in, what if we never put on an event again because, you know, anxieties and also spaces and the funding and so on and so forth. How can we now take our platform and fuse music and activism in a way more powerful way that goes beyond the, hey, we're putting on this event and 50% of ticket sales go to this fundraiser or whatever? Because also with fundraising, money is powerful, fundraising is powerful, but also like like I was saying before, question everything. Like, we don't always know where the money is going. Like, and look what's even just, I read about it this morning, what's happened in Victoria, all the money and food that's being donated to the residents in lockdown, in those housing, the food's not even going to them because the and this is an issue with the police, but they're essentially taking it away from them as they're taking everything else away from them, all their other rights and stuff. But like, you know, how we have money. If you have money, if you're making money, if you're raising money, but like what can we do that's more powerful than that? I mean, money is so powerful. But yeah, that's the conversation that we've been having, and I think it would be a lie to say that the rest of the community is not doing that.
Yeah. Exactly, and I think I had the conversation with this guy Wes. He runs a brand called Sushi in Sydney.
Oh yeah, PS.
Yeah.
I know.
PS.
We know.
Yeah, and he said
Sushi.
before this, and like I was obviously quite politically engaged by myself, but my brand was just, I'm just going to make cool t-shirts and cool hoodies, and I'm going to make some money off it, and it's going to be really cool, and I'll build a little community. And then he saw everything happen from bushfires and be like, I've got a responsibility now. And it's easy for him because he's been politically charged. He knew what he believed in and that sort of thing. And it's like, I've got a responsibility to make meaning from people having fun or people engaging something and building their own identities. So I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, yes, we have this a podcast, or yes, we have this media organization, but how can we actually make it so that it does provide actual meaning rather than like lifting people's voices?
Honestly, I'm like interested to see once promoters are allowed to, you know, book people at venues, and to like, I'm very interested to see what the lineups look like, because I've always, since I like started participating in like the Sydney music scene, there have been no people of colour at all, and that's like such a struggle that I've like had to deal with, like just as a dancer before I started DJing, and then like becoming a DJ and being like one of like 4 other people of colour DJs, and that was like so hectic to go through that and not have like people that were like making it. And so I'm very interested to see all these promoters that are talking out. Like, I'm very like, will they book?
Yeah, how will they actually?
Artists?
How will they walk the walk? Are they
Yeah.
talking the talk? That's
Exactly.
totally.
Yeah. So I do hope, like, 'cause honestly, like, Sydney music is so whitewashed, and like, they're like serious
Music
change
is
needs.
whitewashed.
Yeah, it like seriously needs to change. So like, I hope people hold other people accountable.
Big time.
Yeah.
Let's just have a breather. I also want to make a point, because we are steaming through this. We're like 33 minutes in, which is good. But I also want to touch on, importantly, I just want to have a conversation about the live stream sort of space, maybe a bit more COVID focused.
Yeah.
You guys have played a couple of live streams, of
Yeah.
course.
Yes.
A couple of big ones.
Yes.
Shout out Room 2 Radio, man.
Yeah.
Shout out
The
to them.
first one. We were the
Yeah.
first one.
Yeah, I know, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
I love those people.
Weird how time has flown since then.
How crazy is
Yeah.
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
and you did last week as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my invite? There are all these people in there. Where's mine?
Social distancing,
Sorry, Parry.
babe.
I'll be there by myself with a bottle of fucking rum, like this in the background. I don't need
Hey,
anyone.
this week we're playing Douglas Street. Maybe you can come to that.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you
true.
go.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'll message Jack.
Yeah.
No +1s.
No.
And I just want to say, obviously, there's a much deeper discussion
Hey, that's me.
Hey.
about how useful and how beautiful they are, because clubs are quite intimidating spaces for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. I just wanted to say, do you think live streams will stay?
I think so.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
now that we realize the power of including people on video, which is so interesting. I was having this conversation with someone the other day about so I'm Jewish, and every Friday night we have family dinner, and it's like all my extended family live in Sydney, and I'm really blessed to have that. And so every Friday night we all get together, and because of COVID we couldn't do that. And so what we started doing is we started having Zoom Shabbat dinners, Zoom family dinners, where we would all just like hop on Zoom for like an hour, and like everyone would be there, like Brady Bunch style, all the families, whatever.
In the boxes as well.
In the boxes as well.
Damn.
And then I've got some family in London as well, and they'd Zoom in. And then even some of like my parents' extended family, like their second and third cousins that like maybe I met when I was 5,
Cute.
they started Zooming in as well.
Cute.
And then like my dad's old mates from South Africa, they still live in Johannesburg, whatever, they started Zooming in. And like it was amazing. It really extended our networks and our ability to hang out with our family and catch up with our family around the world. And now we're getting, because restrictions are easing, we're all getting back together again. And we haven't been like, oh, okay, sorry, so-and-so in the UK or so-and-so in Johannesburg, like we can't hang out with you anymore because you don't live here and we're all getting back together in person now. It's still maintained. Like we still, every Friday night now, we're going to have the computer screen up with like people from around the world zooming in, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to be the same for the live stream situation.
Yeah.
And also in saying that, when we did the LAN, the LAN party system live stream, we were having this conversation, and also your podcast with Ava Tonye when she came in, and you guys spoke about this.
She didn't really come in. I wish she had.
Well, on Zoom, sorry. On Zoom. She, inverted commas, came
Bastard.
in.
Zoom.
Alumni, you know?
She's big alumni.
Big alumni. You guys were having the conversation about how that the Zoom online live streaming platform was so important for Anti and for Irregular Fit because they had just finished the Irregular Fit show workshop, which was so important for Sydney, so important for our scene. Like, Ava Tonye has done like such incredible work with all those people.
Top 5 ever.
Totally. And top 3, top 2, top 1. Like, and and to actually enhance, like, to have that platform was so important for them and all the Irregular Fit alumni, because it kept them going. And so many of them have just, like, Anti-Collective has just, like, thrived off of this.
At the same, like, token, I've, like, worked with promoters that are like, we're not going to book DJs if they haven't played venues before. And so in that way,
What? Is that real?
It's for real.
That's like I won't hire you if you've never had work experience, but I've never had work experience, so how am I going to get a job? Like,
same energy. But it's so, I think live streams are so important to, like, show, it's like, hey, this person might not have played venue, but my God, they have talent, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God, can they miss?
My God.
My God.
But also I don't think it's a sustainable art. I don't think the live streaming parties, like,
it's
even
a good tool. It's like, it's a good tool. It's a live stream.
I see it evolving as when you're at a club, like at Frida's.
For now,
they'll have a GoPro at Frida's.
Being
streaming to people at home.
I
feel like
you can
that
rewatch
might
the set
be
if
where
that was like a sick party.
Exactly.
You can, like, rewatch it.
And I think that's maybe where they'll intersect.
I think that's where it'll go. Yeah, like, it's never, like I was saying about, like, with the anecdote with my family, now it's not going to go away. It's going to stay, but in another way.
Yeah.
But also, like, saying that, like, so when live streaming, like, all the DJs went onto Twitch had no, like, laws regarding, like, music copyright, and now they do. It's like they will take down videos or mute videos, and I think, like, how do you, like, what can be done to,
around
like,
that? Well, that's music law.
Yeah.
That's a whole
just play Vanillani.
battle with music law. Yeah.
1970s repress. Yeah. That's why I sucked into all those major labels. We don't play their music anymore.
But what
with
about
lawyers.
like Boiler Room? This is what Boiler Room's been doing for ages.
But they have,
it's no anomaly. Like, this is what they've done.
But they've, like, paid money to be able to
So maybe that's what venues are going to have to start doing.
Yeah. Such a process.
Boiler Room, like, if you play a set at a festival, you submit it to
AMCOS, whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what we're all going to do.
That's what probably we'd have to do. They can run sheets and stuff. I don't know. I've got no idea.
Yeah.
We should have a lawyer on.
We should. Hey.
An entertainment lawyer.
What do you think about it?
Live streams?
Yeah.
I love them. I think that it'll become a norm that parties are live streamed in clubs.
Yeah.
As well.
I hope so. That, like, that would be nice.
It would also be such a fun, like,
so
form
sick,
of art as well, in terms of, like, I love when you're in the club and they GoPro and then they put it on a screen and then you're like, oh, the screen.
One of my favorite things to do, like, after I come back from, like, a big party is to watch, like, 90s rave dungeons, and everyone's just, like, just going for it.
That's your favorite thing to do after you go out.
It's just a nice, like, a wind down. It's like, it counts as a wind down.
You with the most niche individual. I know.
A vintage
like, never stop the rave. Deepa comes home like, oh
love party.
I can't imagine Deepa listening to anything faster than, like, 112.
Are you kidding?
I'm joking.
Oh my goodness.
I'm joking.
Did you hear about my
Deepa likes Witch House.
What is Witch House?
Oh God, never listen to Witch House.
What is Witch House? Nightcore. It's like Nightcore. Is it? I assume that's what it sounds like.
I've listened to a lot of hardcore.
Nightcore. I'm saying Nightcore.
What's Nightcore?
It's like 180 pitched up vocals, like going like.
Oh, like Happy House.
No.
It's close.
Like
Nightcore is
Happy
closer to happy hardcore.
Happy hardcore. That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry, happy hardcore.
But
not
like,
happy house.
I mean, this is like.
Isn't all house happy?
No,
No,
someone else is not happy
no.
at all.
Sorry.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness, that's
Moods.
incorrect.
Hashtag moods.
Oh my god, house police.
I love
I'm
when
sorry, don't
House
cancel
I think
for
me.
lovers.
My favorite tag, and like whenever I'm writing an article and I put in deep moods, or like,
Do you?
yeah, it's like,
Sad
ooh.
synth.
Does anyone?
No, deep moods is like a whole, like, you know that whole moody, like, I don't know. Deep
I think
moods.
That's like
It
Ross
makes no
and
sense.
Ross
Is
and
that
Friends
Ross
is
and
so
Friends?
deep
It's for
moods.
Team Yamaha.
Yeah, that is so deep
Nah.
moods.
Yeah. What have you guys been listening to?
What have I been listening to? Honestly, lots
Parry
of
Talks.
yeah,
On
lots of
repeat?
podcasts.
Just the Honey Point episode on repeat every morning.
We laughed so much in that episode.
What have I been listening to?
I've been finding myself listening to, which is weird for me,
Compilations.
Like a lot
So
of
many new compilations.
a lot of spacey, breaky stuff, which is very off-brand for me. Like, I've just fallen in love with, like, Planet
Imitate-
Euphoria, D-Tiff, Rosa,
Oh,
of course. We love Rosa.
Love. I've been
And just,
listening
like,
to
that
lots
whole
of
world is
Ramsey
really nice.
recently.
Yeah.
Lots of Ramsey, lots of Cousin,
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Gray and Lee Mabs. I just love.
Why is that a giggle?
No, because
What's your
they've got a upcoming EP, which I'm very excited about because I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be big.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, nice.
Yeah.
I'm getting to ambient at the moment, but that's also because
You are getting into ambient at the moment. I was listening to your show the other night. It was so ambient
Yeah.
on Friday night. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
I've been listening to a lot of like 80s bands because my housemate loves 80s bands.
Give
so
him a shout out.
they're just always Hamish, shout out, Pitchman, because I don't. He's been playing, and I've been so into it. And like Funky Town. We've been listening to Funky Town by Lip Sync on repeat, and now, so on Spotify, Lip Sync only have, this is such a digress from everything we've been speaking about. Anyways, they only have the one song out, Funky Town. And
Wow.
I'm like, I want to dive into that. I want to open up like investigative journalism around Lip Sync and what happened to them. Like, why did they only have Funky Town out?
It costs money to have songs on there. Maybe every other one was.
Yeah, but I reckon like Funky Town's a banger. Go listen to it and dissect it musically. It is actually so
Wow.
clever. It's amazing. Oh, and MIA. I've been listening to so
time.
much MIA.
You know, truth be told, I've been listening to like Cloud Control and
Oh, here we go. It
1975
comes out
on
now.
repeat.
It comes out
that's
now.
yeah.
We
that's
love
that's
Cloud Control.
yeah.
We love Alice
We
Wright.
love Cloud Control. It's not funny.
Couple other questions.
Mhm.
Bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
What have been your girls, beautiful people's favorite Parry
Lads.
Talks episodes?
The Ivor
Because you guys have actually listened to them.
Yeah, I
People
listened to
come
them.
in and they're like, "Oh, I listened to that one episode. It's pretty cool. I'm so glad to be on here." But you guys actually listened to them.
Yeah.
No, I did listen to them. I love the Ivor episode. I
Yeah.
What
listened
an
to
episode.
it
Yeah.
while I was nannying, and I was like cooking. I remember exactly where I was, and I was listening, and I was just like, and everything. I was just going,
One more time.
Like just
One more time.
Just really,
Yeah.
hottest takes, best
Yeah.
episode, important episode, like so good, and the Village Room episode. I like
Yeah.
the
Ah,
Village Room
Village Room.
episode.
Isa episode, but that's I feel like I'm so biased.
Yeah.
Louis T.
Louis
Where's
T.
Louis T?
Louis T. That's the
Oh,
best.
she's
name.
probably around. You know what? She will
You know
be
what?
around.
For the listeners back home, Parry just looked outside the window.
No, they can see this.
Oh.
Yeah. Parry Talks. Holy shit, what an episode. That was
And yeah,
fucking
we're-
insane.
We're back now.
We're
We're
back.
back.
Yeah, you're
Open
back.
invite to you girls. Whenever you want to come on, whenever you want
Oh.
to speak your truth,
Can
I
I
have the
come every
mic set up.
week? Can I be your co-host?
Can we? Oh my, can
Sometimes.
we ask questions?
Can I be Parry and Danny Talks?
I love interviewing people. I would love to
You know
ask
what?
them questions.
We can talk about this all fair.
Yeah, I've got a little top
Oh
secret
my.
project starting.
Oh.
Oh my god.
So you might be seeing more of these bastards
Oh.
on your screens for Parry Talks.
Okay, cool. I'm in.
Yeah, this will be up next week, so it'll be pretty soon. Shout out
Cool.
everybody that's listened. Shout out to Honey Point. Hey Honey Point, I like
Yeah,
saying for some
yeah.
reason.
Shout out to you for this platform. Thank you,
Yeah.
Parry.
Aw,
Yeah.
Real asking questions that we don't get to talk about.
Yeah.
big time.
Yeah.
Thanks for
And
coming.
like we were talking before about like generating the discussions and like using our platforms for activism, like podcasting is a really powerful medium to share and spread and generate discussion.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
yeah.
Mm.
Thank you.